welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay, and today we have a lovely special guest, Tara Slone. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Do you mind giving us a little bit of an introduction, how you identify and how you got into hockey?
Oh, Nessa's joining. Hey.
Hello, Nessa.
I can't
Introduce yourself.
Hold on.
And
Nessa.
she's wearing the new, the retro gear.
Which I bought, by the way. I haven't worn it yet because I'm like, I don't know the place to wear it exactly without looking like a total super fan, but I should have worn it today. And Nessa, I've just been asked to give a brief introduction of myself. My name is Tara Slone. I am she, her. I am Canadian. I was born in Montreal, lived my entire life in Canada, grew up actually mostly on the east coast of Canada in Nova Scotia. Spent the first part of my kind of adult professional life as a rock and roll musician. So I was part of a band called Joy Drop, and we toured supporting 2 albums all across North America. I moved into broadcasting kind of in my mid-30s when I just couldn't support myself as a musician anymore, but really lucked out that the doors were opening in broadcasting. And I was just very intentional about steering myself towards sports and towards hockey specifically because I grew up a big hockey fan, as many of us do in Canada. And I stumbled into a really fantastic opportunity. It was a show called Rogers Hometown Hockey that launched in Canada when Rogers and Sportsnet, which is one of the main sports broadcasters in Canada, got the rights to the NHL in 2014. And so I was part of this touring show called Rogers Hometown Hockey. I was the co-host. We basically crossed Canada exploring hockey stories in communities of every size. We were in major cities, but mostly we were in smaller communities. And so, where you would have a pregame, intermission, postgame from a studio, we did, but ours was filled with stories surrounding the local community. That was canceled. Really, we were a COVID casualty, and at that time, I was based in Toronto. Just before COVID, I fell in love with somebody who lives in California. So, the wheels were kind of in motion. I had a feeling that hometown hockey was going to come to an end, and this relationship, in order to keep it afloat, we'd have to be in the same place. So anyway, everything kind of just worked out. I moved myself. I'm here with my daughter. We're just outside of San Jose in Los Gatos, and I live in California now, which is pretty crazy. And I work for the Sharks, and I work for NBC Sports Bay Area. And so that's sort of the really truncated version of my journey.
Can you talk a little bit about how did you just get into hockey? Because as being Canadian, that's kind of, like a religious occurrence. Or do you recall this particular moment where it kind of introduced itself to you and it kind of sparked your interest?
I mean, for sure, the sort of hockey as religion thing is true. There really is a ritual in Canada. Hockey night in Canada, Saturday nights, it's a thing that you do. And I grew up, and there were a lot fewer channels when I grew up. And there was, there was one game. And so my dad was a huge Montreal Canadiens fan. And so I became a huge Montreal Canadiens fan. And I really liked it. And almost ironically, I just, what I loved about it was not just the game itself, but what I perceived at that time as the culture and the great parts of the culture of camaraderie, team building and support and community building. I think there's something so wonderful about cheering for and cheering against. And in Canada, back to the kind of religious analogy, like rinks, especially in small communities, are gathering places that are incredibly important. So even through my music career, I would do appearances on sports talk shows. And so it was always kind of in my mind, but it had just never occurred to me that I would make a career of it. And then, when I moved into broadcasting, I was hosting a morning show, and we did a lot of sports content. And I was in Calgary, Alberta at the time. So we had a close relationship with the Calgary Flames and got to know, a lot of their staff, and just really loved covering it. So when this show, Hometown Hockey, was announced, it just seemed to me to be I'm not an analyst, but I'm a storyteller. And so this was just the right combination of storytelling and hockey for me.
So I'm curious to know if the reason you moved out to California was because of your significant other or because the opportunity with the Sharks came about.
It was my significant other.
Okay.
But, immediately my mind went to, well, I mean, what am I suited to do in this part of the world? And so, through him, he introduced me to the NBC folks, which was very nice of him. And then through some amazing women friends, I was introduced to a woman named Netta, who's a vice president with the Sharks. On the IT, like way too smart part of the business. And so she introduced me to Jonathan Becker, the president of the Sharks. So, but yeah, I followed my heart to California. That was the impetus.
How are you liking it so far?
I mean, the easy answer is it's beautiful and amazing, and it is. But for sure, it's a culture shock for me a little bit. I mean, just, Canada, I've lived in Canada. I'm 49 years old. I grew up with socialized healthcare and Celsius and centimeters and kilometers and, like understanding. I like news, so I understand American politics, to a high extent, but like, I don't at its nuts and bolts. Like I understand the Canadian parliamentary system, but I don't really understand how things work here and why there are midterms and stuff. So, and my daughter is, studying an entirely different, plethora of stuff. So, yeah. And it's just, I'm from the East Coast of Canada. California just has a really different, extraordinary landscape, but honestly, it's been really amazing. The most challenging thing for me is like making a big adjustment at this point in my life. It's, there's there's so much that's kind of wrapped up in it because I'm a woman in middle age, making a big career transition. I have to think about my daughter and her well-being. So I would say like the easy part is like the physical place, right? This place is amazing. The hard part is like, feeling emotionally sound and grounded and having this entirely new experience at this point in life. But I think it's great.
I get that. I actually experienced the opposite of you just last year because I moved to Vancouver for a bit for work.
Oh, so did you feel it? Did it kind of like...
There was a little bit of a culture shock and like everything you just described about trying to feel sound in a new place. I actually went by myself, so I didn't know anyone. I didn't have a daughter or like a significant other with me at the time to like have someone to like for support. So I was there all on my own trying to make new friends. It was still during those COVID restrictions. So it was like, it was an interesting experience. And then again, the Celsius Fahrenheit thing, I'm like, oh, it's like 9 degrees outside. What does that mean? That sounds cold to me.
Yeah, that one, I still have not mastered how to do the conversion at all.
I had literally had a tab open on my phone, Google Chrome, Celsius to Fahrenheit. What is the conversion?
Yeah, I do too. But yeah, and listen, especially I'm lucky to have, a little bit of a home base here. But yeah, it's hard. It's just, unless you have a situation like when you go away to school or something, it's hard when you're in a place where it's like not your people, right?
Yeah.
Yet. It takes a while to cultivate those friendships.
And I think as you get older, you kind of realize what you like and what you don't, and you just kind of want to not have to deal with the unnecessary roller coasters of finding those comforts. And I can certainly relate to moving to a place on my own. I spent 2 years out in Germany.
Oh wow. Yeah,
But like Nessa said, I didn't have a kid or these other sort of responsibilities, so to speak. And so it was the perfect time in my life. But would I do it now? Probably not. I kind of just want to know what I'm gonna wake up to every morning and just go about my day and enjoy the little things in life. But it sounds like, despite the culture shock and uprooting your life, you've kind of got a nice thing going with the Sharks right now. I mean,
yeah.
you're probably the highlight of last night because nothing really else was going on the ice.
I mean, actually, being there in person, this was the first game I've been to, and I guess I've worked a few, but I've been to a few, so I've probably been to 6 games or 7 games this year. That was the first time I'd seen the arena full, which was amazing. So like I felt the vibe that everybody had talked about. Like, this is one of the loudest buildings in the league. And it actually felt like that last night. It was a lot of Bruins fans too.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. And I was like, they were loud for the Bruins.
They were loud. but it had energy. And at least, listen, the Sharks have obviously been disappointing, but I felt like, there was maximum effort. That's at the very least, that's what you want to see. So I feel like they really played, but that Boston team, what are you going to do?
Best team in the league.
They're scary.
Yeah.
They're scary.
They're so good.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
It's not fair, really.
Darn them. Darn them.
Darn them. But yes, you're right. I have a very good thing going. And like for me, the way that I've approached kind of big leaps in my life is like, am I going to regret not having done it? And there was no way I couldn't, give this a try. And so, I've been sort of saying, I feel stupid lucky to have just landed, in this world of tech. It's not exclusively tech, but this is obviously what this area is known for, in which I have zero, talent. So I literally found like kind of the 2 jobs that I'm best suited for in this part of the world. So I feel incredibly fortunate.
You're pulling off no talent really well.
I'm like, most of us don't really have talent in IT tech or like the whatever, It's mostly transplants that come out to the Bay. So it's fine. You fit right in.
Yeah. Well, that's true. There are a lot of people from away. But I love what I'm doing now. I love that I have a bunch of different responsibilities, both for the Sharks and for NBC. So it's great. It's sort of flexible but almost full time, and just really like a fun new frontier.
So what's it been like so far working for the Sharks specifically?
It's been great. I really was, I say this, from the bottom of my heart. Like when I met Jonathan Becker, I knew that this was an organization that had its heart in the right place. And he knew exactly who I was, and he knew exactly, all you have to do is a quick Google search to know that I've been openly critical about the culture of hockey in the NHL specifically. But I really think that, from Jonathan on down, that people are really trying to put their money where their mouths are, that, Pride Night's not just going to stop at like some Pride hockey tape. Like that things are actually, they're really trying to work in the community. They're really trying to grow the game in a wholesome way. And I felt good about being with this organization specifically. And, it's not like there was a job opening and I got the job. It was like they wanted me to be here to sort of help with that, to help, kind of shift the culture and help grow the game. So that felt just so good to me to be, not just welcomed, but really wanted.
What can fans expect moving forward with you on the broadcast? And then you have a podcast, the Undercurrent, correct?
Yeah. So my duties for the Sharks specifically are the podcast, which we're doing weekly-ish. Took a break over the holidays because everybody needed it, and I felt like a time when people wouldn't be necessarily downloading. I have no idea how consumers consume podcasts, but
We don't know either.
yeah. Yeah. So but we're putting them out at this point weekly-ish. I think it's going to be a morphing entity, but I would say, for now, it's people sort of surrounding hockey. Well, hockey for sure. So far it's been people kind of surrounding the Sharks organization, at least sort of peripherally, who, have made a difference or are making a difference. So just trying to dig a little bit deeper. It's not really hockey talk so much as it is people's journeys, and the way that they are working to change the game for the better. That's the podcast. I'm doing video content with the Sharks also. We'll be doing a lot of community pieces. And then from the NBC side, I don't know, like it's, I did my third game for them last night, because Brody and Curtis Brown were doing the pregame and intermissions from the building. I was able to join them. So that was just kind of new. So I suspect that when they're in the building, I'll be joining them for a lot of the pre and intermission segments. Otherwise, just sort of in game what I've been doing, a few stories, grab an interview where I can as well. So, and then I will fill in for Brody a little bit later on in the season. He moves to baseball, so I'll be in the studio a little bit as well.
Nice. I just have to say, like, like, as much as I love the broadcast team for the Sharks, it's so refreshing to hear a woman on the broadcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple of seasons ago we had Kendall Coyne Schofield for a few of the games, and
that was the highlight of the broadcast for me. Again, like Nessa said, love our guys. They when we have to listen to another broadcast, it just feels odd. We're like, no,
they're really good. Yeah.
I've gone to the point sometimes where I'll sync the video broadcast with the audio. I'm like, I just need to hear like our guys. It just adds that comfort, and the struggle when it's like bad, like they comfort us in a way where it feels a little too neutral and cold on on any other broadcast. But when Kendall was on there, it was just not only is she an amazing hockey player, but it just added that like Nessa said, refreshing to hear a voice, someone who is not often seen, especially at like that level. So it was nice to have her for that time, and she moved on to another role with I think the Hawks later on, which obviously do you, but
yeah, she's a Chicago girl, so I guess that makes sense.
But it's nice to when we heard that you were coming on, where you had all these different questions about like, well, like where will she be, like what she's doing. So the first game that we saw you on the broadcast, I was like, I don't usually follow the pregame much anymore, but when you started showing up and all stuff, I'm like, I'll tune in. I won't walk out of the room. So yeah, so it was very exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I agree, and like they're a world-class broadcast team. And so, but they have a huge responsibility. And I think especially seasons like this one that are like, it's really hard to like talk for an entire pregame, intermissions, and postgame about a team that's struggling. And I think it's just nice to intersperse, stories. I think that's the school that I come from, from my show, Hometown Hockey, which was filled with stories. And that sort of, I just think it adds just a needed perspective. And so I love that I can be a little bit subversive and like, inject, like the first game I did, we talked about the rivalry series. So I'm like, all right, I get women's hockey in here and this is awesome. So, and I give all credit to, Sean Madison, who's the producer of the Sharks game broadcast, because he's all for it.
Can you give us a little insight of what your day in the life looks like when you're getting ready for broadcast?
So I try to plan ahead, but a lot of things sort of emerge in like the day or days before in terms of, stories that come up. We keep a running spreadsheet of ideas for each game. It's not very exciting my day of, like, my pregame ritual, I try to do a workout that day. And that's become almost like superstition a little bit. Like I have to work out the day on game days. I sort of time my meal. This is so boring. Like I time my meals. I got to have a big lunch because I eat at the rink, but I don't want to have a big dinner before the game. And then, I'm pretty intense about prep. Like my feeling is that you sort of rise or fall to the level of your preparation. And not that I want things to ever be like robotic, but I feel personally very comforted by having like a bedrock of information. And whether I ever refer to it or not, my notes or not, certainly never plan conversations, but I really like, I like to be as prepped as possible and have more information than less. And then, we have a game meeting at the arena at 5:30, and then we kind of all go our separate ways to do whatever pregame stuff we do, and then we're on the air at 7:00 usually. It's super not exciting. But I try to keep my game days kind of clear. Mm-hmm. Like I like to focus. I don't want to I try not to schedule anything else during the course of that day.
Right. That makes sense.
But you know what? I mean, it would be different if I was doing 82 games, right? Like then you have to live your life. But for me right now, I'm just like, okay, game day is focus day.
Okay, you kind of touched base on this earlier, but I kind of want to see if I can get a more elaborate answer from you. Is since you are from Canada, where hockey is very much hockey's everything. How does the market in Canada compare to what you've seen so far in the Bay Area? And I know the Sharks are struggling right now, so it's not like you haven't experienced, the crazy energetic playoff hockey that happens here yet. But from what you've seen so far, how does that compare? From the media side of business, I don't know.
I mean, I feel like I'm just still trying to understand everything. It's for sure more challenging to find local hockey stories to tell. And that's just because there's so many other things here that, so I'm sure I could find local football stories really easily. But local hockey stories are harder to unearth, but that's fine. It just requires diligence because they exist. But sure, if I was in, a small town in Manitoba, there's no shortage because it is, again, really ingrained in the fabric, and it's cold, and that's just what people do. So that is different. But the fan base here, I know that, I know the legacy of winning and of success that this team has had. So in turn, I truly believe this is a great hockey market. It's for any team, it's hard to, even teams in Canada, when they struggle, their rinks aren't full. I don't know what it's like now, but there was a time when the Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa was pretty empty. So even in places where they eat, sleep, breathe hockey, they still struggle when the team struggles. So that's not unique. What I love so far about what I'm seeing in the arena is that hockey is much more accessible here. In big markets, in Canada specifically, but probably at Madison Square Garden and TD Garden and places like that, it's so hard and so expensive to get tickets that it really is quite a homogenous crowd. And so I saw a lot more diversity, or have seen a lot more diversity in the crowds here in San Jose. And I think that's really interesting
It's
to me.
neat.
It is. And it's, it just shows me that when you make hockey available, people will come. But if tickets are consistently unattainable, then the audience is always going to look the same.
Toronto, calling you out.
Hashtag Toronto. Yeah, totally.
Do you have any feelings you can share about the Sharks season and the future moving ahead?
Are you allowed to talk about that?
I mean, listen, obviously, I think the work on NBC, we're sort of paid to be cheerleaders in a certain way.
You're not paid here though, so.
No, I mean, I can say watching as a fan, it's just, it's a bummer. Like, it's a bummer when you do see quality hockey and then, there's no follow through. So it seems like, there's a lot of offensive potential. There's, people who are very capable of scoring goals.
San Jose Eric Carlson's.
Right. Yes, exactly. But from a defensive perspective, I don't know. They just seem to fall apart at the end more often than not. And so it's just like, it just becomes predictably like, oh God, here we go again. Like, they're going to blow this lead and then they're going to lose. So it's just, I'm watching as a fan, honestly. And I'm like, ugh. So, I mean, what I don't know is really what's going to happen in the next couple months, because as we lead up to trade deadline, I think some stuff's going to really change. And I don't have a good beat on, they're not calling it a rebuild, but I don't know. Like, I just don't know how they see the structure shifting. It's not clear.
It's not, and it's really frustrating as a fan. It's funny because every game that I'm able to catch, we're talking on Discord. Me, Jay, and a few other Sharks people, friends. And anytime I see them up, like the Sharks are winning, I'm like, I'm gonna jinx this game. I want them to lose. I'm all aboard tank season. I need them to get like a high draft pick. Like, I love this team, but something needs to happen. And then Jay always gets mad. They're like, I need them to win. What are you talking about?
It's a struggle for me. I want there to be potential, but I understand the fact that, we need a big change, and I'm optimistic about this being the first season under a new GM. We don't know what he's going to do. We've seen over the last couple of decades how the previous one worked, and it's a balance between being a diehard fan and then facing the reality that, like, maybe it is best that we are doing terrible right now. It's something that's out of from a fan perspective, out of our control. But the upcoming draft looks like it's supposed to be, a really good one, and maybe that is our opportunity to start righting the ship. So, amongst the friends and throughout what we've seen, at least on Twitter and socials and stuff like that, like, fans are hoping that this will be a draft that we can really rise to the occasion. And I don't think it's Bedard. We're not getting him.
Well, it's unlikely, but you never know. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean, certainly he's the clear number one, but it's obviously drafting wisely is huge, and there's a decent prospect pool, and we talked a lot yesterday during the pregame and intermissions about the advantage of keeping some of these really good prospects on the Barracuda, not bringing them up yet. I think there's a plan afoot, but yeah, I don't quite know what it's going to be. And, I just think the complexion of the team is going to look really pretty different. Like, some players that we love are going to not be there.
Timo.
But who knows who's coming, in return. So what the building blocks will be.
This is the part I hate. Even like when the Sharks were in playoff contention where they have to send off someone, I get so attached to these players. Like I've never met them.
Yeah, no, that's what it's about for sure. So it's going to be an interesting couple months. That's what I think.
All right, who do you think is the funniest Sharks staff member, or actually both, and player?
I don't staff. I haven't met everybody yet. So because so much is done virtually. So I've sort of met a few people in the office, but not many. So that I don't know. Player, I mean, I think Mario Ferraro seems
Yes.
to be. He seems to be, and like I was just hovering around during media day, and he's just like a joyful character.
Big goofball.
Just seems like the guy you want to hang around.
We're big Ferraro fans here.
This is Mario Ferraro stands over here.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I think he's a great fan favorite for sure.
What's the weirdest hockey rule, and why is it that offsides call in the Ducks game?
Yeah, exactly. That was as I was watching and trying to decipher that, and as you and I were talking on Twitter, it is that's super. I mean, because it seems to me, and I mean, I've never played, so I don't know, but it seems to me that somebody could be very intentional about pushing the puck over the blue line, not touching it, therefore, making it easier for it not to be offside. But I don't know for sure. That was very, very weird.
Man, conspiracy theory time. They wanted the Ducks to win. Just kidding.
Yeah, that game. That game was a bummer. That game was a huge, huge bummer.
Although I was not surprised. Honestly, there've been too many of those this season.
I know. Yeah, I feel the same.
Do you have a hockey superstition?
I mean, like I said, I don't think a superstition, but I definitely, like I say, like I need to work out on game days. Like that's become a thing, and then if I don't, I kind of have that weird feeling like, oh, things aren't going to go well. I used to be a little bit more when I was doing hometown hockey. I was a bit more ritualistic, probably because it was in a studio, and I kind of like the days were the same. Whereas here things are kind of changing, and like yesterday I was in the pregame, and like so it's a little bit different. I wouldn't say it's a superstition, but I sing sometimes before I go on air. I find that a psychologist told me that it actually is really good for kind of just like loosening up your nervous system, like getting your nervous system level. So
my therapist says humming can help calm you down.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not terrible.
I listen to instrumental music when I need to calm down. It just somehow is just like I can feel all the stress just kind of like leaving my body. I think in a way to like stop your brain from going in all different directions.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
as mine does.
Yes. So we're going to move on. We're going to wind down with some non-hockey questions. So with the exception of lately with all the storms and the flooding, we've heard you praise the great weather out in California, but what is something you miss about Canada?
I mean, I
Healthcare.
think yeah. I mean, gosh. I do like the change of seasons. Like I don't like how long winter lasts, but there is something kind of magical about when the seasons start to shift. And, those sort of first snowfalls. Like I spent the holidays in Canada, and it felt much more Christmassy to me, even though I landed in Edmonton first, and I was like, this is horrible because it was so cold. So, I do, and I miss certain places, I miss Toronto, but I don't think I miss like the physical being of Toronto. I just miss certain spots and obviously certain people. And then, yeah, just familiar things, right? Like I miss being able to watch Hockey Night in Canada, although I can mostly watch it here now. Yeah, it's certain like food chains. Like there's a hamburger chain that I like called Harvey's that they don't have here, or like
Isn't Harvey's like
you know,
Carl's Jr.?
probably kind of. They just have a particular taste.
It's not going to be same quality.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Harvey's is good quality either. I just like when you grow up with something, it's just kind of. And now I know you can get poutine at the rink, but like it's not readily available everywhere.
I had poutine for the very first time my last night in Vancouver before I moved back here. I was like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was there for like 10 months or 11 months, and I waited till the very last moment to try it.
And what was the verdict?
I mean, it's good. It's gravy. It's like literally potatoes slathered in gravy with cheese curds. Like it tastes exactly what you think it tastes like.
Yeah, which is amazing. Amazing. Like honestly, I think when I was younger and had a different metabolism, I ate it at least 3 times a week. I lived in Montreal. I went to school in Montreal, so it was everywhere, right? That's like the fast food at every corner. I love it.
It's pretty good.
So yeah, I miss poutine.
I think food is like big thing you miss when you move anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, I was asking Jay like before we started rolling of some of their favorite spots in San Jose because I just don't know places to go. You know, I miss knowing my locals.
Oh, I think Jay can give you some like Filipino food to try. Like,
oh yeah.
Oh, there we go. That's one thing I can add to the list. I was telling Tara I'm gonna get her a list later. I gave her all of my coffee spots right off the bat, so
yeah,
those I can go run off on. But yeah. Oh. I feel like we've talked about this offline already. But if you want to answer the question, ask the question, Nessa.
If you have a favorite spot in the Bay or San Jose yet, whether it's a restaurant, park, like.
I can tell you my favorite spot to like hike/jog. I hike up and jog down. It's pretty close to where I live. So it's Bear Creek. I guess it's preserve, maybe it's official conservation preserve. I don't know, but it's a beautiful redwood forest trail. And it just makes me feel small, which feels right. You know, it just puts things in perspective. I kind of look at these majestic trees and think like life goes on, you know, and we're just this like grains of sand, and there's just so much wisdom in the land. And so, yeah, I just, that's my favorite go-to spot so far. I haven't really found my local, like there's some restaurants and stuff I like, but I haven't found like my locals. Like I really like Oren's hummus. I don't know how interesting that is. I've enjoyed the times that I've gone to Santa Cruz. I think Santa Cruz is super interesting and cool.
Beachy vibes.
And I just like, it's sort of, you know, when you grow up not in California and you see movies about California, it's a little bit like you imagine it would be. But also it's just such an interesting mishmash of people. Mm. Like I like gritty.
I think it's interesting. My time in Vancouver, I noticed Canadians are very, very into hiking and nature and all that stuff. And it's
there they are. In Vancouver, they are. I would not say that is a universal experience.
Okay.
Like people who moved to British Columbia, like Vancouver Island, BC, a lot of them grow up with that. So they hike or ski or snowboard or all of the above or bike, or they move there because of it. But that's like, it's not the same way in the rest of the country at all.
Okay.
It's just the healthiest part of Canada.
Are you a fan of Mexican food, and what's your review of the California fusion?
I am a huge fan of Mexican food.
As you should be.
Yeah, a huge. I will eat it like 7 days a week. I I found a couple of really good spots here, and I'm open to. But that's the kind of thing I want to know. Like, I want to know like the, the low key like best hole in the wall Mexican. I want to know the low key best Vietnamese. Like, I want to know those things.
So I don't know if it's the best, but in San Jose, there's a rivalry between La Vic's and Iguanas, and it's right down here in San Jose. And personally, my vote goes to La Vic's. I think you go to Iguanas for the quesadillas, but for a nice burrito, I go to La Vic's more times than not. Whether it's the
I'm
best
writing this down.
place. Okay. Yeah, we'll get you a whole list. We're gonna compile a list. I'm
right.
like not even being like I'm not even joking. But that's just for me, that's a nice comfort food. But we'll definitely get you a well-rounded list of places to go eat. Because when I left the area for a time, I think that's when I started really getting into eating Mexican food or really appreciating the luxury of the area and just having, accessible cuisines and quality, because in Germany you're not getting a good quesadilla.
No, I would think not.
I could not for the life of me find a good burrito in Vancouver, and it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, it's proximity, right? Like the further north you get, you're so far away from Mexico. So yeah, this for sure here that's been a highlight.
If you get an opportunity to go to San Francisco, go down to the Mission, and you can try some really good Mexican food out there, or even some my people's food, Salvadorian. You gotta go try a pupusa.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, I will. There was a really good Salvadorian place near where I lived in Toronto, which sadly shut down. It made it almost all the way through COVID and then shut down. Oh. But yeah, I really like food a lot.
Oh my God, me too.
Oh, I will say, this is we've gone so far astray, but we don't have Trader Joe's in Canada.
Yes, I know.
And Trader Joe's is sparks joy for me.
The best thing ever.
Honestly, I just go there and I feel so happy.
Right?
Even if it's so crowded, because usually they're so crowded. But yeah, I love it.
That's so fascinating to me. not in a joking way, but just wow, because that's something that we, like I said, go back to. I've spent most of my life living here, so it's just part of my life. And when folks come here and they're amazed by something, it just kind of puts in perspective how lucky you are.
I brought 3 separate, I made Trader Joe's gift bags for presents that I brought home to Canada. I brought all my favorite little spice mixes and brought them home for people.
That's cute.
At Christmas. Yeah, I know. I'm a dork.
My roommate was kind of the same way, because she actually is ex-roommate, I should say. I don't live there anymore. She's from India, and she moved to Canada, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever. And she frequently went across the border to go hang out with friends, either in Seattle or she went to Portland. And she was like, I stopped by Trader Joe's on my way home. And she came back with a bunch of these things, which is I've seen it before, so it's nothing new to me, but it's really funny, the difference in reactions. And when my girlfriend would come visit me in Vancouver, her thing was oh, I have to hit up Tim Hortons because we don't have that back home,
Right. And I know I'm a bad Canadian for not saying I miss Tim Hortons, but I don't miss it. I don't like their coffee. But I do like their tea.
I didn't eat their tea.
And my daughter likes their Timbits. So.
Timbits were pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you know about the secret menu at In-N-Out? And have you tried anything on it yet? Have you been to In-N-Out yet?
No. I have been to In-N-Out. Not since I've been living here, but I've over the years for sure.
Okay, honest opinion.
What's the secret menu?
First of all, what did you think about In-N-Out?
It was good. It just, I don't know. I'm not sure that any fast food chain has blown my mind in terms of burger quality.
Right. I think it's overrated. I love In-N-Out. Don't get me wrong. I grew up out here, whatever. But people blew it way out of proportion, and everyone's like, oh my god, I gotta try In-N-Out. I think it's more so it became a thing about aesthetic for a while. It's like, oh, I'm at In-N-Out, check out this cute picture. I took up this burger.
Yeah. It does have a good logo.
But so In-N-Out does have a quote unquote secret menu. It's a secret menu because it's not on the menu, but it's really just customizing your burgers, right?
Right.
I think
That or putting a ton of cheese onto your fries.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that
Called
appeals.
animal style. You can put it on anything. On well, I don't know, burgers, fries, etc. You can put cheese and I forget. I've never actually
their
had
secret
it 'cause
sauce,
it's not-
which is
Yeah.
really just
Oh,
Thousand
man.
Island dressing.
Yeah, same as McDonald's. Anything that it can be smothered in cheese, I'm down with.
They have what I like to order that's on the quote unquote secret menu is the Neapolitan shake. You just mix all 3 flavors and you're good to go.
Okay. Well, I will. I'll be sure to try the secret menu next time I go.
Yeah, just Google it. You'll find it. It's not that
I
secret.
will. I will. I love the food bent of this conversation. It's making me hungry.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Next question. How do you feel about escape rooms?
So I've only done one.
Mm-hmm.
My boyfriend is the type of person who loves them. And also like the kind of problem solving puzzles, like he got these kits and they don't appeal to me in the same way, but I inevitably, like I had fun, but he's like hardcore.
Oh my god. Can you hook us up? I love escape rooms.
Yeah, no, I was just, and he's good at it. Like his brain obviously works in that way. Like he's, you know, whatever his logical mind is. So yeah, it's not something that's like, wow, I can't wait to go do that. But when I find myself in the situation, I enjoy it.
I literally went to an escape room for my birthday last year. It's so much fun.
So, yeah, so I will introduce the two of you. And you
Great.
Final question.
This is Jay's favorite
Zombie apocalypse.
question to
I
ask
just
everyone.
I just find it interesting, and maybe when it does happen, I need to know who's going to be on my team. Zombie apocalypse. Are you surviving it? And what's your weapon of choice?
Oh my God. Is there like is there a right answer? Like, are there certain weapons that people have? This is a terrible question for me, I feel.
You don't watch zombie movies?
No.
I don't
I'm not
think Tara's surviving it. Oh,
No, for sure I'm not surviving it. No, I'm toast. I'm toast very quickly. Yeah, no, I'm totally not a zombie person.
That's fine. People like pick bats. You know, bats, they'll stick like nails in them, so more
Right.
damage. Chainsaws. What do you call it? Axes. Guns,
yeah.
of course, because America.
I think firearms are probably the worst because you run out. And what are you going to do after that?
He's just
Yeah.
what is it called?
I like the bat idea. I like it. Give me that. But I'm not surviving. I'm toast. I'm a scaredy cat.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, 10 years ago maybe I put up a fight, but nowadays too much anxiety, man.
Yeah, you and me both.
I guess that's the end of our questions.
Well, I'm sorry I gave you an anticlimactic non-answer for your last question. It was.
Please think of a better one. No, just kidding. Do you have any shout outs you'd like to throw out into the world?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I kind of gave like the props for, Netta and I just want to say, like, I've been really evaluating my, good fortune and the network of people that have, helped me. And so, yeah, I just, there are just a lot of people who've been so supportive in my life and career. And so, like Netta and this guy, Sean Madison, who've just been such champions to help me find gainful employment here in California. But I don't know. I just feel like it's hard to be optimistic sometimes with the current state of the world, but there's still a lot of kindness. So I try to meditate on that.
Yeah, that's what we're here for too. We're trying to spread positive vibes.
And you do. You absolutely do. I'm grateful that you found me to be an interesting subject, even though I have no zombie knowledge.
That's okay. That's not a deal breaker here. Also, I have to say I like your shirt.
Oh, thank
Choice
you.
of shirt, top notch.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a fan too. And I hope that we get to meet in person someday.
Yeah. I still need to make it out to a game this season. It's been, life.
Yeah, no, I get it. But if you do, please send me a note and I'll come say hi.
Okay.
Will do.
Try to make it out for
yes.
Pride Night. I'm going to try my hardest.
Yeah, and I'm kind of sad because I realized I looked through my schedule and I'm not working, but that means I can just go. So
Yeah, just go. We can make it so gay.
We will circle it on the calendar.
Okay. Well, I appreciate this, and Jay, I eagerly anticipate your list of restaurants.
I'm excited to put it together for you.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. And that is it for our episode today. We'd like to thank Tara for coming on and chatting with us. And with that, I am your host, Jay.
I'm other host. Sorry I was late, Nessa. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.